Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Latt, and you are listening to another episode of the Perilous Podcast, and joining me as always in the Bunker of Doom, it's the co-host, it's Angie Carrier.
Hi!
What's going on?
You know, not much.
Yeah?
The usual. Yeah.
Woo!
Woo!
Alright.
I gotta think of a way to answer that question. Like, I need like a tagline or something.
Well,
like,
next time I'll just give you a math question.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. You're looking thrilled about that. And you are listening to the
been a
George
long
Street
time.
Shuffle by Kevin MacLeod. Get all your free music at incompetech.com. More of that on the outro. Smooth transition. And so last week we spoke of RFK.
Mm-hmm.
And this week we are talking about something that I find very fascinating. Which
Me too.
is, the Skinwalker Ranch. For those of you who don't know, skinwalkers are a Navajo tradition of these sort of bad witches that can.
Yeah, and like they said,
shapeshift
like is it Navajo, and then it's like the Ute tribe in Utah or whatever, or is that two different?
Two different tribes.
Yeah, two different. But it's all
Yeah.
kind of all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Skinwalker Ranch is in Utah, so that's kind of where it all came back.
Yeah, I think it's a similar tradition across different tribes.
Yeah.
Basically about these, what we call them, shamans or witch doctors or whatever that are bad and can take on many forms, and they're
Shapeshifters.
shape-shifting,
Yeah.
and they can walk into other people's skin, and Skinwalker Ranch. And also because it's a cool title.
Yeah.
So a lot of, the thing about Skinwalker, and then I'm going to shut up, is one of the things we face in the world of the paranormal is, excuse me, sorry, everybody's still getting over my cold. One of the things with the problems we have is, 99.999% of the time we're going off of secondhand accounts, stories, and there's very little physical evidence. So it comes down to, do you trust the source?
Right.
And the thing about Skinwalker is the person who really brought it forward is a guy named George Knapp. Now, you and I were talking about it off air. George Knapp is a really interesting sort of thing where he's a news guy. He still works in Las Vegas. He's been there for 40 years. He also broke the Bob Lazar story.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that next week. And the thing about George Knapp is he's one of the few people that's been able to investigate paranormal phenomena, UFOs and all that stuff, and still keep his job.
Right.
And still be respected and still do investigative journalism. So I trust George Knapp.
Right.
So it brings credence to the Skinwalker story.
Right.
So I am going to be quiet and drink water and talk about Skinwalker.
Poor thing. So I think it would be good to maybe do like a timeline of kind of where it was, how it all originated. So, well, obviously the Native Americans who lived there in Utah in this area, it's like 480 acres is the official ranch, but before we all took over, the white people kind of took over, the Native Americans lived there, and they had in this area, it was considered like a cursed area, and they because they saw all these skinwalkers or these weird things that they couldn't explain, which was how they explained it with skinwalkers. Now for me, like, you trust George Knapp, I actually tend to really like feel like Native Americans were really in tune with like the land and like all that stuff.
I don't disagree.
And I really like any kind of Native American traditions, culture, all of that. Like, I think it's pretty powerful, whether or not you believe it. But so that kind of started back then. And then in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, it started getting people in the area around this ranch area started reporting lots of UFO sightings. It was like kind of ballooning out of control. There's like a lot of people just seeing like flying saucers, lights, weird animals. And then, so I guess what really spurred all of it was like in 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman and with their kids and cattle moved onto this ranch. They bought the ranch.
Not their real names, I don't think.
Well, I think that's their real names, but their pseudonym was Tom Gorman. That's right. Yeah, I had to look that up because I was like, wait a minute, I read one thing that says Sherman. Well, either way, this couple with their kids and their expensive cattle moved onto the ranch and immediately in 94 started seeing weird stuff happen. They saw weird like dog-like animals. They saw a wolf that they were able to pet that smelled like
at first,
and then they tried to shoot him because he started trying to steal their cattle, and he got away, even though they shot him with like 5 giant slugs. So there's just a lot of, they said, the one that I was like, really? When they said they saw a ship that was like multiple football fields long. That one was a little like less. I was like, I don't know about that one. But based on what you think that could be happening in the area, maybe that is true. I made a list of a lot of their cattle had just disappeared or was mutilated, and that's a big UFO trope now. I feel like
we'll do
mutilated
a whole
cattle
mutilation thing.
Yes, impressions in the grass. I think one of the creepiest ones for me was like hearing voices speaking like 20 feet ahead or 20 feet above them in like different languages. Like, woof, I don't like that. So they moved after 2 years, and Robert Bigelow, who started the budget hotel chains, like billionaire guy, he bought the ranch because he wanted to do scientific study there.
He started a thing called NIDS.
NITS, yeah, that's right. The National Institute of Science.
Discovery Science.
Yes, yeah. And he started wanting to go about it in a scientific way. And all of his researchers reported really weird stuff happening. But I don't think they ever got anything on video despite having...
I think they got a few snapshots. Here's the thing that I find very interesting, and another level of credence for this is this isn't the only thing Bigelow's done.
You're right.
NIDS has looked. It's not officially around anymore.
No, he's got Bigelow Aerospace
big into
now.
Aerospace.
Yep.
But he had NIDS going on as a side project. And has probably spent tens of millions of dollars researching paranormal phenomena. But where I think Bigelow's not getting involved unless he thinks it's worth his time
and money, lots of money.
And lots of money. But where I think Bigelow made a mistake is that everyone he brought in was a hard scientist. And while I don't think you should have brought in a psychic medium or anything like that, you really should have brought someone in that is used to high strangeness more than a scientist. Yeah. And that's where I think they made their mistake. But when Bigelow gets involved, I think there's credence here because he may be a fanatic, but he's not an idiot, and I think he wants the truth. But I also think he's interested in what it means from a financial aspect. Yeah. Now he still owns the ranch.
Yeah, he said the statement that was released by Bigelow Aerospace was that the ranch is still there, owned by him, and they wanted to leave the aliens in peace.
Yeah. The short of it for me is, there's some weird shit that happened at Skinwalker. And again, Bigelow, what's interesting, we're going to talk about Bob Lazar next week. There was, I was watching a quote unquote documentary on Skinwalker. And it's the only place I've ever heard it. I have to do a little more research, but there was an unnamed scientist involved in the Skinwalker investigation who brought up element 115.
Interesting.
From the Bob Lazar story. If you don't know what that is, we're going to get into that next week. I think Bob Lazar was one of the people Bigelow brought in.
That would make sense.
To look into this. And I think he brought him in because George Knapp told him to.
That would also make sense.
He knows
this guy.
His shit. And we'll get into Bob Lazar. It's a very interesting story, whether you believe him or not. But so I think that's just a very interesting thing. But with Bigelow getting involved and all this stuff, and I've read the book Tales of the Skinwalker Ranch, written by George Knapp and one of the scientists involved in it, and it's fucking weird and really interesting. And there are certain things, as someone who is an occultist and has been, to say studying this is maybe too nice, but has been interested in this stuff since I was 13. There are certain things that like, for example, you brought up the dogs. These were these huge wolf-like creatures. Like, imagine the dire wolves from...
That's exactly what I thought of,
the book Game of Thrones, not the show Game of Thrones, because they use real wolves.
Yeah,
the dire wolf is like 6 times the size of a regular wolf. So they're pulling up to the ranch, and they're unpacking. It's like day one. Yeah. And this big fucking thing comes up, and they're letting them pet it and whatever. And then it goes for one of the bulls or cows. And that's when they freak out. And they shoot it, of course, because they're freaking out. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and go, you should have let your $10,000 cow die.
Right.
But they should have let the $10,000 cow die.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, what that was a test. It was
Can we live
right
side by side or whatever?
Give me this thing, like let's test and see how these people react to it, and if they let me do it, maybe these are people we can work with. But then this again, was this a real creature, or was it a physical manifestation of, this sort of temporary manifestation of whatever is going on at the Skinwalker Ranch? And I hate to say it. Hang on, everybody. So I apologize, everybody. I was looking up the word I was looking for because it was driving me insane. So the wolf thing could have been a tulpa, Tulpa, which is a physical manifestation, a thought form of a spiritual being coming down onto the physical plane. And when I say spiritual being, I just mean something we can't process or see, or maybe it's living in a different dimension, not a parallel universe, but as we've touched on before, a dimension right by the side of us that is a higher or lower frequency, which I know sounds hippy-dippy trippy, but that's actually science. We all vibrate at a certain frequency. This is proven science. There could be infinite dimensions around us that we can't perceive. So this tulpa comes lumbering across, and everything's going good. He's very friendly. Yeah.
You can pet me. Yeah.
And then it goes for one of the bulls.
Honestly, I would not pet that thing, though.
Yeah.
Before that.
But then it goes for one of the bulls, and shit gets crazy. They start shooting it. And from there, that's when things get a little weird. Because the whoever manifested this dire wolf-sized thing goes, fuck. Yeah. More idiots moved in on my patch.
I'm just trying to do some stuff here.
Yeah, just trying to do some stuff.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go from there.
Okay.
I think, I guess I don't know if we want to talk theories already or more stuff that happened.
Well, we can talk. We can mix and match.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, I wish that there was some more that came out of Robert Bigelow's stuff. I mean, I wish there was some more.
He plays things very close.
Yes. That would have been nice. A lot of I think it was interesting. Some of the scientists, what they reported, that they felt somebody take over their mind, or that there was a predator, creature that was almost invisible, but it was roaring at them.
Yeah.
All that. I don't know that I've ever heard of a place quite like this, besides this one, where it's not just UFOs that people are seeing. It's monsters and all of that stuff.
And then there's some really creepy stuff, like these anthropomorphic beings that had horse heads or wolf heads, but human bodies. Yeah. Chain smoking.
And then what's the camel? Almost
Joe Camel.
Joe Camel.
Hey, what's
so weird.
Welcome to Flavor Country. But it's very strange.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, no, I was my instincts on this were that there has to be something going on, almost with electromagnetic fields, because of the plethora of weird shit that's happening. It doesn't UFO sightings all happening in the same area. That's kind of that seems right. It's contained.
Mean natural electromagnetic fields.
Yes.
Due to deposits.
Yes.
Because the grid, because there ain't nothing out there.
No.
Right.
Because something, especially if the Native Americans have been reporting this for thousands of years, or had been, reporting it for thousands, or recording it, or however you want to say.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Also getting into a cold here, brain firing at wrong levels. So it was almost maybe not that there isn't paranormal stuff happening, but something is making it manifest in a weird way. Those dimensions are kind of being shown. What do people call? There's words for a window or a portal of some sort. Portal. Yeah. And
there is actually reports from the Skinwalker folks about a huge portal opening up and things coming through. And then and then there's in the book there's this really creepy thing about this sort of, looks like these sort of two-dimensional creatures trying to crawl out from this. Angie's freaking out. She's shaking her head.
This thing, actually, I don't really get creeped out by stuff when I'm reading it. But yes, I do actually. Because Skinwalker Ranch, though, when I was researching it for this, that I was starting to get really creeped out. I had a blanket on my lap and it moved. And I thought it was my cat. It moved at the end, and I was like, "What is that?" No, it was just the fucking blanket just shifted, but it scared the shit out of me, and I was like, "Whew, this is creeping me out."
Yeah, and so there's this thing where these sort of flat, shadowy creatures look like they're crawling up out of this thing and getting out. So yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, I think, so let's go ahead and say it's happening. And for me, again, I don't believe Bigelow gets involved in things unless he believes what's going on. Also, if there was nothing there, there's no need to keep the ranch.
Right.
I think he's waiting for stuff to start happening again.
Yeah, because it would died off in 2004, which that's interesting. I didn't explore that further, but I would like to know, why? What happened?
Right.
What's going on? Or
it's just resting and it's going to start up again. And these things tend to go in cycles. And just because nothing's being reported doesn't mean there aren't things going on. But 480
acres is a very large piece of area.
But activity may have died down to such a point where, because there's still people on the ranch. He's got security there. He's probably got a couple of even though NID's dissolved, he's probably got a couple of scientist guys on there. But I personally, I believe activity will start ramping up within the next year to a point where I don't know. I just have a feeling. I'm working out cycles in my head that I do a lot of subconscious thinking that I don't, I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, right, that's the puzzle that's been working for 2 or 3 months in the back of my head. But so I believe Bigelow got involved because something was really there. I believe he's still involved because there is something there. I believe George Knapp to be very credible.
So did George Knapp report that he saw stuff, or was he just reporting on what they said?
I believe he saw stuff.
Okay.
And felt stuff. I could be wrong. I haven't read the book in a year. I want to reread it, but I'm going to let you borrow it.
Yes.
Yeah, the cat's really going to scare the shit out of you after you read this
great.
book.
Well, it wasn't the cat, but
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and again, George Knapp, I just find a very credible source. And, and again, I don't know George Knapp. I've interacted with him a few times over the years, and he wouldn't know me from Adam. But we've had, we used to exchange emails talking about certain things, and I've talked with him about a few different types of topics, and he's always been, very rational and quick to call bullshit on something. And I think one of the reasons he didn't mind corresponding with me is because I also call bullshit on a lot of stuff. And I think he was like, oh, okay, I'll deal with this guy.
This guy's pretty normal.
I'm not going to have coffee with him, but at least we can both agree when something is just fucking bullshit.
Yeah. That's how you got me on this podcast.
That's true. That's true. You were the first person that I didn't think was nuts. But
so you think?
Well, I know you're nuts, but you're not nuts.
Yeah. Not capital nuts.
No, you're my kind of nuts. You're quirky.
Yeah, there you go.
You're just not batshit insane.
Yeah.
So for me, I think there's just definitely something there. Now, I am one of two minds of this, and then I'll let you espouse your theory. Is it's just sort of this place where, for whatever reason, realities are thin, and you get these interactions from higher dimensions and lower dimensions. And we touched on this with ghosts, which is, where I talk about, ghosts are not ghosts. It's just science we don't understand because of gravity and things like that, and interdimensional beings. And just because I say a higher frequency doesn't mean a more benevolent thing. It's just a different frequency. And so they're converging. It's just thin, and they can come through. Or Skinwalker sits basically on what is the front gate of an interdimensional prison.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they're coming. That's these things that were crawling through.
Oof, I do not.
To me, that's someme escaping from something.
It's like Shawshank Redemption,
yeah,
paranormal.
Which again, why not apply how we think to other beings we can't, don't know truly exist or whatever? But why wouldn't there be some sort of prison where bad things are put?
I picture Hades for some reason, weird.
But imagine the activity ramps up, the membrane gets more thin, and these things realize they can get out.
Yeah,
and it goes from this sort of benevolent or neutral interaction to angry, and maybe they can only go so far.
Right.
I don't know. I just think it's very interesting. What do you think?
I think I have like maybe two also, because so going back to the Native American thing, so they were seeing these like skinwalkers, and but they never reported anything like metallic or like all of that stuff. So that makes me think that still could be the natural electromagnetic fields, but they weren't hallucinating things from the future. So we, as far as we know, I suppose, right? So, but maybe because that field is so loose, or all that weird stuff, like the UFOs maybe started being attracted to it. So it could kind of like be a dual thing, like something from like that's not really related to UFO at all, but it was like, aliens are coming or whatever. And then they're like, whoa, there's like hotbed of activity here that I want to be around. So I guess maybe it's not two, but it still all kind of surrounds that like electromagnetic natural field, because I mean. So
you think it could be a hallucination caused by the electromagnetic fields?
So.
Well, that's one of your theories.
Yeah, that's one of the theories.
Okay,
I think some of it is like the hallucination, like because like shit can fuck with your brain.
Absolutely.
Like that. Like
no. I absolutely think that's a valid possibility.
I
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. No, I had a few years ago. I have a titanium tooth, like our titanium screw in one of my teeth, and Dick Van Dyke, actually, all of his teeth are implants, all titanium, and he's convinced that it's giving him like, I don't know if it's like dementia-like symptoms, but it's making him like forget things and like have headaches and all this stuff. So I got really paranoid a few years ago that was like happening to me. So actually that ties in, only that I was like thinking about like having something like metallic around you, like it can like screw with like your wavelengths, and you can kind of feel like dizzy even at the minor level, dizzy, like headaches, all of that stuff. So I was like, it's like a Dick Van Dyke situation happening, but like in mass. But I also really like the idea of it being like a real paranormal type window. So I think it could be either or, and I think both are really freaky. Like even if it's just hallucinations, like this stuff that's manifesting for you, especially if you're seeing the same shit. Yeah. Like the nephew and the dad,
and also the scientists all saw the same
thing. So like that kind of lends more to the mass hallucination, but it also kind of lends more to like something there actually for real. So I don't know. I think both are freaky, but I'm just not sure which one it is. Yeah.
I'm certainly open to it. I mean, and again, I'm open to some of the stories just being flat out bullshit.
Oh yeah. That also, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of them that are bullshit, but the volume.
It's just the volume. But again, for me, it's George Knapp. Mm-hmm. George Knapp's not going to write a book that he thinks is fake.
That's true.
And Bigelow, he's not pouring all that money.
I like the way that you say his name. Is that really how you say it? It's not Bigelow. Told you I'm bad at pronunciation.
I'm just a Bigelow.
Like Bigelow tea?
People know the yeah, I believe it's Bigelow.
Oh, okay.
Well, I used to pronounce it Bigelow too, but I believe it's Bigelow.
No. Lazar, whatever.
Lazar. Yeah, Bob Lazar. I like that so much better than Lazar. And if he was smart and knew anything about marketing, he'd have started calling himself Bob Lazar.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I think I again, it's who do you trust? And actually, we've proven this, which is, news is about bias. News used to be about facts, but news is about the truth. Is not
Fox
about
News is facts, Jonathan.
That's true. Yeah, but the truth isn't about facts. It's about who you believe.
Mm-hmm. True.
And it is about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my perception of something is biased, of course, like anybody else's. So when I hear George Knapp and Robert Bigelow are involved in something, I go, there's something there. And then George Knapp wrote a book. Again, people think, it's so funny when it comes to UFO, paranormal stuff, and you see these people on the circuits and everything.
Yeah.
And sure, some are just attention whores, but you get all these people going, they're just doing it for the money. Nobody's driving a Ferrari.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the UFO world, you're not making a shit ton of money,
Yeah, it's like, where's the money going to even be pouring in from? Like, who's sponsoring you? Yeah, I guess. Like but
books, but nobody reads. You write a book. If you sell 10,000 copies, you're not making any money.
No, which is an insane amount. Like, I would be happy to sell 10,000 copies,
right,
but you're not making anything.
Still have a day job.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, I write for a living, and you got to fucking work really, really hard.
You got to write
to just cover your nut.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love what I do, but no one on the UFO circuit is like has an American Express black card. You know what I mean?
Titanium.
Nobody. It's one of those things where they go, oh, they're doing it for the money. George Knapp is not writing a book because there's a lot of money in it.
Right.
George Knapp is writing a book because, and I don't know about other people, but my bias is George Knapp is not writing this book because he thinks this is going to pay for my third house.
Right.
It's because he's a reporter. He found it very, very interesting, and he wants people to know about it.
Yeah.
And also, when I was an agent, I was a TV agent. We did a lot of reality stuff, and this was back when reality shows were actually documentaries.
Yeah.
We also did a lot of hosts. We represented hosts and news agents and stuff like that, news reporters and things like that. George Knapp makes more money working for the local TV station than he is ever going to make off a book.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it would be in his best interest, if it was about money, it would be in his best interest to shut the fuck up, go for the anchor position, take his mid-six-figure salary home every year and be quiet, but he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
He's an investigative journalist. He does a few different things, and it's because he believes he's searching for the truth. He's not doing it for money or fame. So that's why I give Skinwalker far more credence than other things, because there's other, once Skinwalker came out, like, you can go, there's like Stardust Ranch, which is total bullshit.
I don't even think I read anything about Stardust.
And there's all these other ranches now that are like, and it's just
Skywalker Ranch.
Well, Skywalker, a lot of weird stuff at Skywalker Ranch. Speaking of which,
well, I know. God,
I think R2. What do you think about Skinwalker Ranch? What? Okay, the Jews had nothing to do with it. I don't know why we keep bringing him on. I'm sorry, everybody. R2's going off to a fan meeting. Racist R2-D2.
We were trying to bring him in for Skywalker, and he just...
Jesus, man. He's just... You should hear... we're not even going to get into what he says about George Lucas. But
maybe he's mad that you made him into bowls. I saw those.
That was a housewarming gift. I have some R2-D2 ones. But, he's just pissed because he's not getting any of that sweet, sweet merch money. So, listen, everybody. Skinwalker Ranch, what do you think? Is it horse shit? Is it real? What do you think is really going on there? Angie thinks it could be hallucinations or it's a portal.
Yeah.
I personally think, all these are possible, but... and again, I am so sorry, everybody. I'm just
coughing away.
Get over this thing. But for me, George Knapp, Robert Bigelow, there's something going on there.
Yeah. Definitely. Now I really want to read that book. I have plans later, but I want to read it.
I'll give you before you go, just please don't lose it. I have a terrible thing with people that borrow books.
Yeah, I have a book I need to get back from someone.
See, people are terrible. But listen, everybody, you have been listening to another episode of the Perilous Podcast. I have been your host, or one of your co-hosts, Jonathan Latt, and Angie Carrier, the co-host.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, bye, everyone.
Angie on the spot. She is right in there.
Slow today.
Well, listen, everybody. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment. Shoot me an email. Go to my website, jonathanlatt.com. Check out my pulp novel, The Geek, because reasons. And we will be back next week with a whole new episode. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.